Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson, and welcome to the final episode of Friday Night Filmstrips, for now at least. Now before I get to talking about today's movie, apologies in advance if it sounds like I'm stuffed up, because I am. For this last week, I've been kind of fighting off some kind of bug, and so as a result, my sinuses are a little clogged today. Also, apologies in advance if I have to end up pausing the recording for any reason, because I am prone to coughing fits, and I don't think you want to just see me here coughing my lungs out while you want to be here to listen to me rant and rave about a movie. So again, just some heads up. But anyway, for today's final movie, again, for now, if I decide to do these again, we're going to be looking at a film that's suggested by me. Yep, today's movie is not as a film that's suggested to me by any of my friends, but rather this is one that I've been personally wanting to talk about for a little while. And technically, it's the impetus that got the ball rolling on me doing these particular vlogs in the first place. And that film, of course, is Cats Don't Dance. So, my history with this movie. The first time I saw it was, well, at home. As you do when you're a kid, there are times when you get sick, ironic, that you just gotta stay home from school. And of course, when I stayed home from school, I would just sit on my ass and watch Cartoon Network. And of course, since it's like daytime Cartoon Network, of course, the studio tend to just like put on any kind of programming they did, stuff that people didn't tend to watch anymore, or even just a daytime movie. And that day's movie was, well, this little thing, Cats Don't Dance, which before then I had never even heard about. So when it popped on Cartoon Network that day, I was a little curious about it. And while I didn't end up seeing all of it, I kind of just saw it in chunks and snippets because of various reasons. I did find myself actually kind of enjoying the movie. And as a result, once it was over, I thought, yeah, I had a good time there. However, I did kind of sort of forget about it. Again, kind of sort of. It was still in my mind. I just never really thought about it very often. I didn't remember what the film was called, so I never really went back to it. I just remembered, hey, it's got anthropomorphic animals that want to get in movies, but they're prejudiced against because they're, well, animals. And so I never really thought about it until I actually started seeing personalities on the internet talking about it, i.e. Doug Walker back when I was a major fan of his. And so it was nice to see it talked about, and yes, I did end up seeing the NC review of it, and it was nice seeing it in the forefront, but I never really went out and sought the film for myself. That is, until I think a couple years ago. After all, at that point, my friends Badger and Spark had recommended movies to me to talk about, in this case, Fern Gully and Super Mario Brothers. And while those films were in my mind, I was still thinking of ways I could actually, have them be set up as a vlog. Then I started thinking about Cats Don't Dance. And I started thinking, I'd actually like to see that movie again, maybe even talk about it. And suddenly, kind of, some gears started turning in my head, and I began making the connections between that film and the film suggested to me by my friends. And I thought, why don't I just package them all together? And as a result, Friday Night Filmstrips was a thing, and of course, more films got added to the lineup because, well, I have other friends, and I did tell them I was doing this, and if they wanted to recommend me stuff. And so, here we are now. We're at the final movie. Of course, you could probably ask, well, why didn't you have this earlier if this was the impetus? Well, it was always my intent to have it be the final film in these things, since, well, call me conceited, but this is the film I wanted to watch, and not a film that wasn't suggested to me. So I kind of wanted to end things out. Not to say that I didn't like seeing the other movies. No. Far from it. It was still good to go back and watch through them, and even films that I thought were so-so, I thought still had something entertaining about them, so I'm still happy to see them, and it did introduce me to a lot of new films that I didn't really give the time of day before. It's just that, again, this is the film that got the ball rolling for me, and so I figured, hey, might as well just put it at the end. With that said, is it worth all this time? Is it worth dedicating the final video of these vlogs to it? Well, let's take a look at it and find out. As for today, we're going to be taking a look at my pick for the Friday Night Filmstrips, Cats Don't Dance. And of course, before we actually get to my thoughts on it, we gotta get to our long-ass plot summary, so here we go. So, as you can probably tell by the cover of this, it's an animated movie, and, well, as you can tell by, well, the animals on the front, it stars a bevy of anthropomorphic talking animals. But, which you wouldn't think is very important, but it is kind of essential for setting up the world. Because in the world of Cats Don't Dance, humans and anthropomorphic talking animals kind of sort of coexist together. While animals still have some of the typical traits you would associate with animals, like, barking, mooing, living on a farm, and so forth, there are also plenty of other animals that can think, speak, and just do everything that a normal human can. They live in towns, they have jobs, they wear clothes, for God's sake. And one of them, an orange tomcat by the name of Danny, has dreams of being in pictures, you'll see. And so he wants to leave his hometown of Kokomo so he can go to Hollywood, get his name in the lights, be a star, a singer, a dancer, and all that crap. And so first chance he gets, when he gets old enough, he goes off, with everyone in his town wishing him good luck and loading him with a bunch of useless crap. I'm not even kidding. They actually say that's what they say. Actually say that, though they don't use the term useless crap. Point is, he goes out to Hollywood, and upon arriving, he's just dumbstruck by the whole place. It just shines in the light. It's just so glorious and magnificent and lovely. And it also is what leads to the first, well, technically second song in the movie. Because, yeah, the film's a musical. And the song is called, apologies, I have the list of songs over there. The song is called Danny's Arrival Song, and it's literally just about him singing about how magical Hollywood is, that the streets are paved with gold, that here anyone can make a difference. It could be Danny, it could be this little penguin we later learn is named Pudge, who anybody could do it. Though as he's singing about it and singing about the wonders of Hollywood, he also indirectly kind of interferes with the day of another cat on the street named Sawyer, this white little feline right here, who is just trying to make it to her job at, I forgot what it was called, but she's basically she works as a secretary for a talent agency, and basically her workday commute is constantly thwarted by Danny, who keeps getting in the way and getting her into hijinks. Like, he steals her taxi when he wanted to ride around town. He accidentally disrupts her tram, so she has to walk the rest of the way. And then likewise, when they actually meet face to face, he accidentally dunks her in a fountain. So yeah, her opinion of him is not exactly positive. But by the end of the song, Danny managed to make it to the talent agency, and, well, he's not the only animal there. There are a bunch of animals there, and hold on one second. Sorry, I had to go retrieve my notes. I don't know why I left this over there. But yeah, there are a bunch of other animals in the talent agency, which include a hippo by the name of Tilly, a goat by the name of Cranston, a fish by the name of Francis, and a turtle by the name of TW. And all of them are here to get work as well, though all of them are mostly wanting to get into a Noah's Ark picture, which is called Little Archangel, which stars this world's version of Shirley Temple by the name of Darla Dimple, who's supposed to be this gosh darn adorable little angel who's supposed to be a lover of animals and children the world over, and she's, like I said, she's the star. And, well, since it's a Noah's Ark picture, they need animals to fill up the cast, so all the animals just want to get in and hopefully get some work. And so Danny is, of course, happy to hear this, and the other animals tell him, just go on into the guy's office and he'll sign you up. And, well, Danny does. He actually just goes right into the head of the talent agency's office, and he does say, yeah, I do need a cat for this role, so he just signs Danny up right there on the spot. So, hey, it looks like his plan is going well. Danny even has a checklist, so it looks like things are going up. But to that point, that Sawyer comes into work, and, well, since it's a Noah's Ark picture, they kind of need two of every animal. And, well, since Danny's all signed up, where was the other cat gonna be? Yeah, Sawyer's boss wants it to be her. And so as she walks in, he comes out and tries to talk Sawyer into going, and Sawyer just says no, she's not interested, she doesn't want to do it, she's a secretary for God's sake, she's not here to act. But ultimately they manage to negotiate, and she says that she'll do it, but she'll only do it for triple her rate or for triple overtime, which a boss is originally against, but again, she talks him into it, so boom, everything's all set. Until she learns that her co-star is Danny, at which point she's like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of this, but sadly she's stuck. So yeah, she and Danny now have to work with each other as they and the other animals make their way to the studio, the Mammoth Studio, which their mascot is a giant mammoth. It's like Lionsgate, except it's a mammoth, whatever. Point is, Danny the whole ride there is just awestruck, and the instant they get on the studio set, he's just like amazed by all the bright lights and colors, and he's just so happy to be involved in all this. And you can see they're already filming a bunch of other famous films. Like earlier in the film, we saw that they were getting ready to premiere Gone with the Wind, and we even see Toto from The Wizard of Oz trying to do the No Place Like Home thing on set. So again, it looks like things are going well. But either way, Danny, Sawyer, and all the other animals make it to the set of Little Archangel, and all of them end up getting into little sailor suits, and each are handed their scripts. But when Danny sees his script, he's a little confused why his only line is meow, which But ultimately, he thinks he can work with it. Maybe he can jazz it up a little, to add some little swing to it. After all, it is a musical. After all, it is a musical, so he can try and add some pizzazz. But ultimately, all the animals get in place on set, Danny and Sawyer included, and it's here where the star of the show comes in, Darla Dimple. As she gets herself outfitted in her little angel outfit, they hoist her up on a crane, and they get a literal elephant to dress up as a mammoth and do the opening for the thing. I'm not even kidding. They stick his head through a cardboard cutout, and he has to blow his trunk just to be able to do all this. So, that's a thing. But ultimately, Darla begins the next song, which I don't no, yeah, it's not even listed. But it's a song that's supposed to sing about that's supposed to be the opening number for the actual movie. And of course, Darla sings about the ark, how it's supposed to gather the animals. And part of the reason why all the animal scripts are only just their respective sounds is because Darla's supposed to go on them and say, and this animal goes, insert sound of animal here. Unfortunately, though, when she gets to the cats, Danny, of course, once again tries to jazz it up, as he actually tries going a little overboard with his meow, and even as Darla goes over to other animals, he keeps trying to, kind of play it up, do other meows, kind of make it sound like a song, and so on and so forth, and yeah, even without the stigma that we learn about later in the movie, this is just unprofessional. My point, ultimately, he just tries putting the spotlight on him, which ends up causing the whole song to just come to a halt and for everyone to stare at him. And for Darla to lose her shit as she just calls cut and then just throws a massive tantrum right there on set. Made even funnier by the fact that she's still hoisted up above everybody's heads, and so as she keeps flailing about, she just keeps swinging back and forth, which also leads to some hilarious slapstick as she keeps flying all over the place while also abusing the director. Point is, though, she's not happy that this cat is stealing her spotlight, and so while she still says, I'm the star here, right? Why is he getting all the attention? Ultimately, the director keeps trying to appease her, but as things finally come to a head and more slapstick ensues, wherein she gets thrown into a bunch of other crew members, she ends up deciding that she ends up exclaiming that she hates all animals, but for today, she particularly hates Danny, before she calls her butler Max. This guy is Max, and he is a fucking behemoth of a man. I don't even know if he is a man. He may be an ape for all I know. Basically, he's just this big, gray, imposing figure. And before he even enters the building, you can just hear the boom of his footsteps as he comes through. And then suddenly you hear a crash, and you look over to a wall, and there's a him-shaped hole there as you see him just walk in, just slowly, before he arrives up to Darla and says, "Yes, Miss Dimple." And immediately Darla tells him to go and take care of Max. At which point he grabs Max and then just forcefully asks him, "What does the kitty cat say?" And when Danny just chokes out a small little meow, he just drops him and then leaves after Darla gives him the okay. And so filming continues as Danny has the fear of God put into him, and yeah, he's kind of learned, and everybody's a little pissed at him. Either way, the film cuts ahead to after shooting, and everyone's out of their costumes, and all the other animals are making fun of Danny, and, well, Danny can hear them, and he's not really knocked off his perch, so to speak. He's like a little confused by all this, but ultimately he just sees this as a minor setback at best. He can fix this, and at best this will set his whole strategy back maybe a half a day max. But, well, everybody wants to kind of let him know, look, dude, we need to let you know what's happening. And Sawyer volunteers to do it because she's already annoyed at him. But every time she tries to tell Danny to just kind of get his head out of his own ass, he instead steps on her lines and just says, "What was going on back there? Did I hear Sawyer? No, maybe if I fix that, I can go back." But damn, Sawyer just tells him, Look, they don't want us. They're never gonna want us. Why are you still doing all this? Why are you so insistent on making a fool of yourself?" And Danny says probably one of the most poignant lines in the movie. "All I want to do is what I love. Doesn't everyone?" And Sawyer, for the first time in this whole movie, just kind of looks forlorn. She tells him, "It's not that simple." As such, she eventually leaves as she tells Danny that if he came here just to try and relive his dream, then this is probably the wrong place for him, and he should just go back to Kokomo, which does confuse Danny, but ultimately it doesn't discourage him for long, as one of the animals that was on there was again Pudge, who was the penguin, of course, for the set, and so Pudge actually does talk to Danny and says he did like his dance moves, resulting in Danny getting a bit of his spirit back as the two of them dance it out a little on the set. Although they stop dancing when they hear piano music coming from a trailer. And so as the pair of them go to the trailer, well, they find the woolly mammoth that did that opening logo for them. His name was, well, Woolly the Mammoth. And so they go in, and he seems a very sophisticated but friendly sort as he offers them tea, though it does lead to some good hijinks as his weight literally shifts the weight of the trailer, throwing Danny and Pudge around. But ultimately, the three of them sit down for tea, and, well, Wooly does kind of explain what's going on to Danny, as Danny is confused why he's just doing the opening logo if he's such a good piano player. Well, Wooly was a piano player once upon a time, but he left that behind to come to Hollywood. But Hollywood doesn't want animals. Or basically, like, they want them for specific things, but when it comes to, like, leading roles, like starring in pictures, actually being in charge of their own shows, they don't want them. They'd rather just have them be on the sidelines. And which confuses Danny because, well, he thought that Hollywood always wanted new talent. And he says, and Wooly just says, talented people, not animals. And to kind of further showcase to Danny just how messed up the system is, he showcases a variety of pictures showcasing all the other animals from the talent agency. And yeah, all of them, like Danny, came to Hollywood with greater aspirations, and all of them kind of fell flat, with Sawyer also being one of them. In fact, Wooly even admits that she was probably the most talented. He thought that she would probably make it. And like Danny, she came here because she wanted to sing and dance in shows. But she kind of fell the hardest. It's just part of the reason why she's so more cynical than everybody else. You can see that the learning this does make Danny feel a bit forlorn, but once again, this doesn't break his spirit. Rather, he decides, well, if they all forgot the reason they came here, why don't I just remind him? And so the next day, as all the animals show up for a casting call, only for most of them to get told to get lost because the studio only needs a few of them for a stampede scene in one movie. Well, Danny comes in with Pudge and Wooly, and they essentially just throw a party as they throw a bunch of instruments and costumes of the animals and just tell them, hey, why don't we just have some fun right now? And at first, none of the animals really get into it, but little by little, they all start feeling the groove of the whole thing, and they all start just having fun, dancing along, having fun, playing their instruments, and they're just all having a good time. Even Sawyer, who's in the talent agency in the other room, starts hearing it, and what I love about this scene is that throughout the whole scene, all of these animals are kind of in the dark, or actually mostly in the dark, so their colors are muted. But as they start getting back into this thing, the light literally comes back to them as they start lighting up, actually getting more into it, and we can see what kind of mindset a character is based on their mindset, based on their glow, so to speak. Like Danny's obviously glowing this entire scene, but then likewise Sawyer, who's in the office, has similar muted colors, but as she gets into the groove, she lights up, but then stops when she realizes what she's doing. But either way, she does go out and check on these things, and when she does end up going down to the alley where the party's going on, Danny manages to pretty much just tells her, hey, why don't you come and join us? Let's have fun! And so, basically, while she tries to say, no, I'm not interested, well, Danny manages to get her in, and she actually does start dancing with him, and the light comes back to her as well as she's having a good time. However, this party does get the attention of Darla, who is also in the studio, getting her face on. And basically she goes out to investigate like Sawyer, but rather than joining in, she just watches from the shadows and just thinks that all the animals are stupid for what they're doing. Though clearly this is having an effect because even Max is starting to get into it as he dances. So it's clearly something big is going on. However, by the end of it, Sawyer does kind of lose her spirit again as she thinks that this is still kind of dumb. While they're having fun, this doesn't exactly change anything. However, excuse me one second. Sorry about that. But yes, Danny says that, well, what if it's like, yeah, this may not change anything right now, but what if they show this act to the head of Mammoth Studios, which in this case the head of Mammoth Studios is called, what was it? Hold on. LB Mammoth, who, I know I'm going to blow the gun on this one, but I kind of like LB Mammoth when we come and see him. He's basically just a stereotypical movie producer kind of guy, so, like straight up suit, strong shoulders, but he's a short guy wearing those glasses. And you can clearly tell that he commands power, as all he does, as the first scene we see him, he's he's in the press conference, and then as everybody's just going nuts, all he does is hold up a hand and everyone just shuts up. So I like it. But either way, Danny thinks that if they can show this act to LB Mammoth, then maybe they can actually, get in pictures, actually realize their dream and not be typecast as the bit players anymore. Which even the animals think, maybe that's a good idea. Well, after all, the only star that he's had is Darla Dimple, so he's probably starving for new talent. Well, Darla hears that and she is not happy. Hold on again. Again, apologies, that was a coughing fit. But yeah, Darla hears all that and she is just not happy. As such, while Sawyer is still kind of skeptical about what Danny said, she does kind of go along with it, as he does promise that he'll try and get a meeting with LB Mammoth. And so as he and the animals kind of clear out of the area, as they're all kind of given that reinvigorated spirit, Darla hits upon an idea, and she decides that if they really want to meet LB, then maybe she could talk to Danny about it. And so she orders Max to invite him for tea later. And so Max goes over to her house, and gotta give credit, this scene just feels very tense. Well, they're at Darla's house, and it's all pink and froofy and nice and kind of weird and just kind of girly. There's a sense of just tension throughout the whole scene. The way Darla acts, the way she smiles, the way she talks, even the fact that when she offers Danny snacks, she offers animal crackers, and literally all she does is just bite the heads off of them before chucking the bodies at Danny. So, immediate hostility. However, Darla instead apologizes to Danny for what Max did earlier. He was a bad boy for that. But ultimately, Darla says that she's heard about what Danny wants to do, and she says that she could help. She not only could set Danny and Co up to be presented to LB Mammoth and show off their performances, but she could even provide a set to do them. Hell, maybe they could do a number for the movie. So, as such, she offers them the chance to use the set, which Danny, of course, is a little shocked by, but he goes with it. He thinks, okay, that sounds amazing. I want to try that. Though, of course, he asks Darla if she has any advice for doing a performance, which also leads to the next song in the movie, Big and Loud. The first part being very extravagant, as Darla literally has a stage set up in her house that is about where she sings about how you have to be big and loud and fantastic in this day and age, and that's all the people want to see. It's actually pretty nice, and the choreography and imagery look fantastic, and I love it. But it does leave an impression on Danny, and so Darla promises that they can use the set. She'll let them know when Mammoth's available, and they can all just set up there. Though she tells Danny to leave her involvement a secret. As such, Danny goes off filled with reinvigoration. Only for once he's gone, Darla starts laughing evilly. Yeah, this is all one big trap. In fact, the meeting day that she wants to set up for Mammoth to see the production is actually the day that he has that press conference I mentioned before. And ultimately, what she wants to do is that she wants to essentially set Danny and the animals up, and then essentially just cause them to fall even further than they did before. Put simply, she wants their fall to be big and loud, which leads to the second half of the song, which I think is a fantastic villain song, as it's just as bombastic as the first one, but it turned from grand and majestic to just dark and mean, especially with the imagery of Danny and Sawyer as they're running away from all these dangerous pitfalls and natural disasters inside Darla's mind. It's honestly kind of dark and twisted, and I love it, and Darla's an awesome villain. But either way, the day of the press conference arrives, and so Danny has all the animals set up, they're in their costumes, but Sawyer's a little hesitant to trust all this. She still ends up going along with it because she does kind of start believing in what Danny has to say, but she can sense a rat, metaphorically speaking. there's something going on behind the scenes, and when she asks Danny about how he got all this, again, Danny hushes up about Darla's involvement. As such, basically, what they want to do is that once LB basically all the animals are going to hide inside the arc for the movie, and basically when LB comes around, they're going to pop out and do the same thing that they did in the alley, but have it be big and loud as per Darla's suggestion. As such, all the animals get inside said arc, and the one that's supposed to, like, open up the cage for them is Pudge, who's in the rafters. Unfortunately, though, before he can even get the chance to do that, Darla and Max appear and, well, they tie him up and start sabotaging the whole thing, as they pretty much just cause a storm right there in the studio. As they rip up the rafters, get a giant fan going, get thunder and lightning all stuff up. It just is a major riot, and basically all the animals inside are kind of clueless to this, except for the fact that they're being rocked around as the boat is caught in the flood. In the meantime, outside the studio, LB and the director are talking to the press, and of course he's talking about how Darla's the magic recipe for making a movie work. But the instant they open up the lot for the film, well, there's a wall of water there, and basically LB, the director, and the press all get caught in the flood. And yeah, while Danny and co. try and get control of the arc throughout the scene, it's just everything's clearly off the rails as the flood just spreads out throughout the studio lot, going into various productions, which also leads to some honestly funny slapstick. Especially when there's a moment where Sawyer and Danny where Sawyer starts calling Danny out on all of his crap, and at one point she even says, "And you can't drive." So, "Oh, by all means, you drive." No, you can drive. And I don't know, it's funny. I like it. But the end result, from LB Mammoth's perspective, this entire thing was caused by the animals, and so once everything settles down, he pretty much just tells them they're never going to be working in this town again, and he proceeds to blacklist all of them. And while Danny tries to take the heat and says, no, they had nothing to do with this, it was all me, well, it falls on deaf ears. And so he and the animals are just kicked out of the studio and are promised to never have a job there again. And then as a final fuck you, well, Darla rolls up, throws Pudgy out, and tells Danny that she's sorry it didn't work out, but they were happy to have been working together before they drive off. At which point the animals realize that Darla was the one that sabotaged them and that they all were had. As such, while Danny tries apologizing because he didn't know that Darla was trying to trick him, well, the animals don't really want to see him. At this point, their spirits are just crushed, and even Wooly tells Danny that he should just probably go home. At this point, there's really nothing here for him, and they can't really sink any lower than they have now. So, yeah, Danny gets broken a little bit too. He even goes back to the hotel he's been staying at and just packs up his suitcase. In the meantime, all the animals, plus Sawyer, do end up going to a bar, and yeah, all of them are pretty much just damning Danny, blaming him for all of this, saying that everything was going so well for them until he showed up. And Sawyer does not say a word to them. In fact, she just looks dejected as she ends up leaving the bar, and it leads to the next song in the movie, which is called Tell Me Lies, which is actually a kind of soothing, sweet song about Sawyer and talking about the state of Hollywood, how their dreams are all just essentially crushed. And yet, Danny helped kind of bring something back. She didn't know how he did it. She didn't know what he did, but ultimately, it helped kind of reignite something in her, and she would love to do that. And even if they all gave up on their dreams, it was at least nice to believe in his for a while. However, as she finished the song up, Tilly the hippo, who followed her outside, ends up hearing the end of the song, and she's actually moved by it, and even encourages Sawyer, look, if you do want to go see him, you can probably catch him at the bus stop. And so Sawyer does end up rushing to the bus stop, intent to try and catch Danny, but she's too little too late, as Danny gets on the bus back to Kokomo, and Sawyer is sadly right behind. However, as she goes, she does find a couple of Danny's, souvenirs that he left behind. In this case, a top hat, or just a hat that he was wearing, plus his checklist, which sadly has been soaked in the rain. So, yeah, she is a little sad. It's clear that she's sad for him. That he did come here with, he may have crashed and burned like a lot of them, even crashed harder because of what Darla did, but ultimately she thinks that he had good intentions, and that he was still a bright soul. Either way, as Danny is just riding the bus to Kokomo, the bus driver talks about how maybe it's for the best. Animals don't belong in pictures. They belong on the farm. Let's look at them. That's where they belong, on the streets. And Danny just kind of looks at all these animals, And it starts kind of reigniting that spark as he starts seeing everything they could do, everything they could go for, and even as they pass by the studio, he's hit by inspiration, and the life is returned to him as he tells the guy to stop the bus. And once it stops and he gets off, the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing? We haven't even gotten started yet." And Danny's like, "Exactly. See you in the movies." Before he goes off, eventually running back into Pudge, and the two of them are happily reunite. Either way, though, they got a plan in mind because they still want to make it big, but they gotta help the animals that Danny kind of screwed over. As such, he and Pudge end up sneaking back into the lot after hours, and Danny manages to get his hands on the invite list for the premiere of Lil Archangel, managing to put the names of all the animals that he worked with in there, and so all of them do end up getting invites to go see the movie. And of course, it's a big red carpet event. Darla's, of course, center stage for the whole thing, as she of course gets her name on the Walk of Fame, puts her handprints in wet cement and all that crap, and likewise a bunch of other stars come in. Hell, even LW Mammoth comes in, and what I love is, again, he gets everyone to freeze just by walking in. But ultimately, everyone just takes their seats, and of course, since the animals were sent the invitations, thanks to Danny's meddling, all of them arrive too and are there to see the movie. Although, this was part of Danny's plan. Basically, behind the screen, he and Pudge are setting up a set. Basically a musical, basically the whole shindig. And what they want to do is that they're going to wait for the movie to finish playing before Danny is going to run back on stage and pretty much just get the spotlight on him and the animals. And what he wants to do is, well, he kind of wants to tie this to Darla. And what I kind of love is that he's using this opportunity to kind of sort of throw Darla under the bus. I don't know if he realizes that Darla was the one that set them up. Oh, probably does. But he can't really get any definitive proof on that. With that said, he can at least try throwing shade her way by saying that the whole thing was her idea. So, basically what he wants to do is that he wants to come in, get the animals to come in via peer pressure, and have them perform and say it was all Darla's idea. Basically, Darla, because she so craves positive publicity, will go along with it for as long as she has to, and likewise the animals will finally be able to put on a show and actually show what they're made of. As such, as the movie goes along and is nearing its end, Danny and Pudge are getting everything set up behind the stage, but unfortunately, Max is fucking awesome, and so as Pudge straightens his bow tie and it snaps, he hears that tiny little snap and realizes that Danny and Pudge are backstage and they're going to do something, and so without Darla even telling him what to do, he just goes backstage to deal with it, which also results in a rather fucking crazy climax as he arrives backstage as Danny's setting up, and using static cling he manages to get Pudge stuck to the ceiling, but while Danny realizes that he's now confronted by this giant behemoth of a man. As such, it leads to a big chase as Danny manages to run to the catwalk, no pun intended. They run to the roof with Max climbing up after him, which ultimately leads to them going up on top. Ultimately leads them going off the studio as they end up crawling onto a giant Darla Dimple balloon that was set up for the premiere. And of course, Danny's climbing all over it, almost nearly falls off, manages to climb his way back to the building. But of course, Max is using one of the ropes from the balloon to get closer to Danny. But what he fails to realize is that he got it close to a spearhead, and it's pointing right at the balloon. And all it will take is one little push to get the thing to pop. And Danny's the one holding the rope now. And so after he asks Max, "What does the kitty cat say?" and Max gives a half-hearted meow, Danny pops the balloon and sends Max flying. All the way to France, apparently. But point is, Max is taken care of, and so Danny and Pudge manage to rush back down just as the movie ends, and Danny manages to run on stage, and despite looking disheveled, he cleans himself up, and again, essentially just throws Darla under the bus, and says thanks to her, the animals are going to try and put on a performance just starring them, which, of course, everyone in the crowd's a little shocked by, but hey, Danny's saying that Darla approved it, so they're just gonna go with it. But the animals themselves, well, they don't want to get involved in this. At least most of them do. Sawyer did receive an invitation, and it's clear, and like I said, Sawyer is more, as we've seen in the movie, Sawyer is more intuitive than the other animals, and so likewise, she was confused why they got an invite, but based on what we can tell, and it's implied but never said, I think she figured out that Danny was the one that got them the invites and so she figured, okay, he must be up to something. And so when she sees him on stage saying, "Hey, come on up, everybody," she's all happy, and so all the animals are trying to make a run for it. Well, Well, thanks to Sawyer, Wooly, and Lily, they managed to get everybody backstage. And so Danny managed to go backstage, and while the animals don't want to perform, because they just think, look, we already tried this once, it blew up in our faces, we don't want to do it again, Danny finally just gives them a good bit of reality. That, yeah, if they really believe what all these people say about them, they can leave right now. But but the thing is, they all came to Hollywood for a reason, and yeah, they've had their dreams stomped on, they've been called names and damned in various ways, but then why are they still here? Why do they still continue wanting to get work in a system that actively hates them? Simple. Because they remember what it was like to perform, to do what they love, to sing, to dance. And regardless of how hard these people try, they'll never take that away from them. So this is their chance to finally prove something to them. And so this does actually manage to get the animals riled up, and they decide, okay, fine, we'll try this. And so it leads to the, I guess, kind of sort of final musical number for the movie, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, which, again, is actually a really nice song. It's very catchy and upbeat, as the animals just go on stage, and of course, Danny and Sawyer are the ones leading the song, but it's just really fast-paced and fun, as all the animals come in, and you can see even the audience getting into it. Unfortunately, since the spotlight's now on her, Darla's able to slip away backstage, and she attempts to sabotage the performance, but only just livens it up more and makes the thing look even more spectacular. And as such, in a rage, she keeps flipping switches backstage, but just makes everything better, until finally she hits the Mac Daddy of all switches, which in turn causes a fucking ocean carrier battleship to come in, that's probably a prop, and shoots an explosion so big it literally blows the roof off the building. But either way, the song is a success, and the audience loved it. They thought it was fantastic, amazing, everybody's cheering for the animals. Even LB Mammoth's like, okay, I like this. I think this is good. But as for Darla, well, thanks to throwing all the switches and getting caught and everything, she gets kind of fried a little. And so as she arrives back on stage, she is right pissed that the spotlight was taken off of her. And so as she crawls up to Danny and just starts manhandling him, she actually says, I should have let you drown when I flooded the stage. And sadly, she said that right into a boom mic on the front and center on the premiere stage, resulting in the entire theater hearing what she said. And while Darla tries immediately putting on a cutesy-wootsy smile, the damage is done, and, well, her career is dead. And besides him, Pudge ends up getting a trapdoor and throws her inside it. But either way, the animals got what they wanted. They're now in the spotlight, and everybody loves them. Hell, LB and the director come up and say that they're going to have them be stars. It's going to be monumental and amazing. But throughout it all, Sawyer pulls out Danny's checklist, starts marking it off, and then even adds her own little thing to it. Get the girl. And so, as Danny and Sawyer start having a moment, they reach out, hold hands, and go in for a kiss, only for Mammoth to come in and interrupt it, which in turn interrupts the kiss. But either way, they're stars now. And the film ends, we get a montage of all these famous movies, as we see the animals have now gotten into the leading roles in them. Which also leads, for whatever reason, that the goat, I forgot his name. What was his name again? Hold on, let me pull it up. I wrote it down. The goat, his name was Cranston. He's in The Mask, for reasons I don't understand, but I kind of want to see that version of the movie. Point is, all of them are making it big, all of them get into it, and Darla, well, she's just now stuck working backstage. And sadly, it looks like the only way she's going to be getting any money for movies is from residuals, if even that. So, yeah, that's Cats Don't Dance. And my thoughts on it? It's a pretty good movie. It's not perfect by any means, but I do think it's an enjoyable movie. Well, before I start getting into why I think it works, I should probably go on to explain why I do think it's just I think it's just pretty good instead of like a great movie. Like in this case, for me, the first problem that I think holds it back is pacing. The thing is, the film feels a little fast for my liking. Now, in the first act of the movie, I think this fast pace worked to its benefit, as the first act helped showcase how fast things moved in Hollywood, and how you never really had a time to sit down and take in the atmosphere, which I think worked to the advantage because, well, Danny was just caught up in the minutia of everything, but never got a chance to see the dark reality that hiding beneath the surface. But then likewise, as the film goes along, while there are a fair share of quiet moments throughout, it feels like the pacing moves a little too fast, in my opinion. And so so it doesn't really, and so it doesn't. There's some. It as a result, it doesn't allow for certain developments to move at the pace that they should, and it does feel a little rushed rushed in a few areas. So I find that to be a problem. A secondary problem is, and I hate to say this, Danny. I want to say this right now. I don't hate Danny as a main character. I do actually like his chipper, positive attitude. I think it helps make things, and I think it helps as a nice offset to the dark reality that's surrounding this movie, especially with everything going on with the discrimination against animals, which is obviously meant to be a parallel with discrimination in filmmaking. But likewise, it's nice to kind of see that shown off, and it does make for him to be a very positive protagonist. With that said, you can kind of see why everyone found him annoying at certain points, because this positive attitude comes with a bit of naivete that ultimately makes you wonder where he is in terms of reality. Because despite all the things that are thrown his way, he just can't seem to understand how reality works. Now, and again, to the film's benefit, that works to its advantage, because you need an attitude like that if you want to get any change done. It's because of Danny's don't never say die attitude that they're even able to get the animals in the forefront and have them be stars and all that stuff. But in many regards, it also leads to him really pushing into areas that nobody really wants him to, including the people who need his help. These people, when Danny has to try and force them to be part of the show, it does feel like he's pushing a little. He really does go, and ultimately the naivete does get annoying, because it really kind of gets to the point where he starts making very stupid decisions. Now, admittedly, he does start learning more from them. Like, by the final act, it's clear that he's aware of Darla's tricks and has planned tricks of his own to counter her. Like when he tied her name to the performance so that she wouldn't be able to damn it as she wanted to, resulting in her having to essentially go behind the scenes to try and sabotage it. But with that being said, as the film goes along, he really does come across like a naive, bright-eyed dumbass who really doesn't understand how things operate, and as a result, it does lead to things going wrong. Now, again, that is probably part of the film's charm. After all, he is naive. He doesn't understand the world, and likewise, I do find that positive attitude to be a nice little bright spot in a dark reality, and sometimes you do need that in these kinds of films. It does work out in the end, and his positive attitude does shine through. It's just that at times it feels a little annoying, like he's too positive, and I do consider that a problem. And when it comes down to it, the final flaw in this movie, well, the songs. I'm just gonna say this right now. The songs are not entirely bad, but half of them really aren't that great. The first three songs in the movie, namely Our Time Has Come, that's a good song. Danny's Arrival song, the Animal Jam session in the first half of Big and Loud, I wasn't impressed by. I really did not find myself enjoying them like I thought I would. Hold on one second. Sorry, sneeze. But I didn't really enjoy them like I thought I did. And I'll give credit, the visuals for the songs throughout the movie are good, but the first half of the songs don't really do it for me. They're not really catchy, in my opinion. I can't find myself remembering the lyrics, and ultimately I didn't find myself jamming out to them. I just found them to be kind of annoying. Even the song that Darla sings when she's filming the Little Archangel movie, no, it doesn't really do it. It doesn't really feel like it's a catchy up. It doesn't really feel like a semi bouncy song like it's trying to be. It just feels weird. And as a result, the first three songs I feel are eh. The last three songs do it for me somewhat, but even they kind of falter in place. As the second half of Big and Loud, I thought was fucking amazing as a villain song, and likewise the final song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, is a great song, very awesome and very full of energy and life that's represented well in in the music and in the visuals. But then likewise, Tell Me Lies, it kind of does it for me with its somber tone, but does still feel a little low in certain areas. That's, again, probably just me, though. But that said, though, despite these factors in the movie, there's still a lot to like in it. For one thing, the animation is fucking beautiful. I love how this film looks. Every single shot looks so beautifully animated, so fluid, so nice. I love the designs for the set. I love the designs for all the songs. Like, even when I was thinking the songs were I thought the visuals were just spectacular. The first half of Big and Loud, I think, really does emphasize the showmanship that Darla was going for in that, and the second half really amped up the dark imagery and really showcases how twisted and insane this little girl was. So I love that. I love that. And then you kind of going on another thing, the villains for this movie were really good. Darla Dimple is a fucking psychopath of a child. And the way they animate her in every scene really just makes you feel uncomfortable. Even when she's just smiling the whole time, it just feels like a very strained smile. And that hiding underneath it is hiding beneath that cheery demeanor is an angry little girl who is ready to just scream your ear off if you so much as look at her funny. And it works throughout the movie, especially when she is allowed to go balls to the walls insane. She's definitely one of those villains that just loves going, as she puts it, being big and loud. And she does it in her villainy. The way she sabotages everything. She is not subtle. She doesn't like subtlety. Subtlety is not in her dictionary. And as a result, she just goes all over the place with all of her plans, and it works. It's fucking glorious. And then you have Max. Max is a fucking awesome sidekick for a villain. He's big, he's intimidating, he gets everywhere without even trying. There's even one scene where as Darla's ushering Danny out of the house, they're walking by his staircase, and Max is back there, but then as they're nearing the door, Max is suddenly there again as he gives Danny his hat, and even Danny's like, wait, wasn't he back? What? And hell, even his introduction scene, it's great. Booming footsteps. You hear a crash. Go over to the wall. There he is. He just storms in, grabs Danny, says, "What does the kitty cat say?" And then just leaves. And when he goes back to the wall, there's a little whoosh sound effect. There's a bright flash, and he's just gone. Like, what the hell? And this guy is just so fucking intimidating throughout the movie. He's kind of one of the best characters in the movie, and I fucking love him for that. I even love... Hell, even when he's defeated, his defeat was a little weird. I still think to myself, this guy is still fun. I like it. It's really cool, and I dig it. On top of that, it's got good humor. The film mostly relies on slapstick humor for it to get a laugh, but I think it does it well. In the first third, it's mostly at the expense of Sawyer when she first meets Danny, but it's good slapstick and I dig it. But the rest of the slapstick throughout the movie, I think, works. When Darla gets thrown around on set after she has her freak out, it's amusing. When Danny and Pudge go to Wooly's trailer and get thrown around as he moves around the trailer, I think is amazing, especially when they end up getting crushed by his piano. And then at one point he offers them sugar, saying, "No, it's good. We're good with the tea here." I love that. Even the scene where the studio gets flooded, it still leads to some genuinely fun slapstick as they go around the studio, and we get some genuinely funny banter between Danny and Sawyer as they're going around, and the animals are just trying to keep everything in control as everything's just going off the rails. I like that. It's actually really fun and amusing. And ultimately, even the end, when Darla tries sabotaging it all, it's just fun to see it all blow up in her face. So I like that. I do find that great. And then I think the thing that still pushes the movie over the edge for me and still makes it good, the message it's trying to give. Essentially, don't give up on your dreams. Kind of ironic considering what WB is doing right now, but you get what I'm saying. Basically, the whole idea behind this movie is just essentially to follow your dreams, and no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what people say, never give up on them. As long as you keep trying, you'll find a way. And I love how they showcase it throughout the movie, especially when they bring up the prejudice angle. I think it's a really I love how they really do showcase that in the film, and they kind of dress it up in a way that I think makes it understandable for kids. Essentially saying, yeah, the people of Hollywood does want talented people, but they only want people in this certain demographic. If they have anybody in this other demographic, they kind of bring them down to bit parts. And likewise, it's a good way of kind of showcasing, well, for lack of a better term, segregation. It's a good way of dumbing it down without really smacking your kids in the face with it. And I think it does it very well. And likewise, what makes it even more poignant is seeing these characters try and reach their dream. Yeah, Danny helps goad them on, but you do really feel for these guys. Not just Danny, but all of them. All of them, deep down, still want to entertain. They still want to do the things they love. It's just their spirit's been beaten down by the system so bad that most of them have given up. But at the same time, that spark has never left. Because after all, like Danny pointed out, why are they still here? Why are they still here if they gave up? And so likewise, it's still gives that, likewise, it still gives you something. It still makes you feel sorry for them, and you does make you want to see them succeed. You do end up rooting for these characters, and so when something bad happens to them and their big chances that is kind of shot in the foot, so to speak, you do feel sorry for them. You feel sorry for all the animals when Darla gets them all kicked off the lot. You feel sorry for Danny as he brings them all down. You feel sorry for Sawyer too. I love is that while Sawyer was the one that was most cynical, she's also the one that starts realizing what Danny did for them, and I do like that how they go. Though maybe I'll say their relationship felt a little too rushed as well. I also like how they showcase her coming around to Danny's way of thinking. That yeah, logically speaking, she thought that it would never work, but there was a part of her who wanted to believe, and that was the part of her that still went along with it, even though her higher brain function was telling her, realistically, this is not going to go the way you think it does. But likewise, it's that hope in Danny and having that spark reignited that does make her decide, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot even if I fail. I like that. I think it's really well done. And so by the end, when the animals do finally manage to get their big number and showcase what they're capable of, I think it's very well earned, and it's very fun, and it's so nice to see them finally showing what they're made of and actually being celebrated for it. I enjoy that. I like that. And I think it leads to a very fun conclusion that I think makes for a very entertaining movie. So, on the whole, I think Cats Don't Dance is still pretty good. Again, it's not perfect. It does have its flaws. I think the pacing could use some work. Danny, I think, is kind of annoying as a main character. And half the songs aren't really that great, in my opinion. But what makes up for that is great villains, amazing visuals, some good funny gags, and honestly, a really good arc and lessons that the characters go through that do really think resonate and do make for a very charming and entertaining movie. So on the whole, if you haven't seen Cats Don't Dance, give it a shot. I think you'll be suitably entertained. It's not going to wow you or anything, but I do think that you'll find something in there that you'll like. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. If you watched Friday Night Film Strips along with me, well, I thank you for that. And likewise, it was fun going back through all these movies. While my enjoyment of some films varied in comparison to others, it was still nice to go back and see all these movies recommended to me by friends, see films that they grew up with, and finally give some films that I never seen before a chance. Like in the case of Bartok the Magnificent or Bugsy Malone, I was finally nice to see those again, or even give me an excuse to seek out films that I hadn't wanted to see for a while, but never really got around to, like with Super Mario Brothers or Fern Gully. It was nice to go back to them, and it was nice to give them a shot, and, well, to all my friends, if you're watching this final video, thanks for recommending me those movies. Well, it was nice going back and watching all of them, and it was nice for you to share a part of your childhoods with me, so... With that said, where do I go from here? Well, Friday night, like I said, I might do Friday Night Film Strips again. It depends on if I get more recommendations and if I feel up to it. But again, I wouldn't be against doing vlogs like this in the future. In the meantime, as for the future vlogs, I do have another cartoon series that I do want to vlog about. Before I get to that, I'm gonna kind of backtrack and do a bonus video for one of my previous vlog series, which I think would be a better finale than what I showcased, both for the show and for the quality of that video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain when I get there. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I see you next week when we start up our bonus video. When I do my bonus vlog. I apologize, I'm drenched in sweat, but I hope you have a good Friday evening. And as always, keep sharing those movies with everyone and keep loving what you love. So till next time, I hope you have a good evening and take care.